This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Biotropic Labs. Biotropic Labs is a company that makes its own natural and healthy custom formulated sports supplements. I tried them out. Paul has also tried them. We both like how we feel on them. It dramatically and positively improved our performance, allowing us to train and work out at a much higher level and with much more endurance. His products are built around a blood support and oxygen delivery. To learn more about their products, please visit them on the web at biotropiclabs.com. At checkout, use the promo code UNION10 to receive 10% off your order. Your order is also backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, zero-risk purchase. Again, that's biotropiclabs.com. Use the promo code UNION10 at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order.
This episode of the Grappler Union podcast is brought to you by BJJ Tees. Go to bjjtees.com, enter the promo code Grappler Union, and save 10% off all your jiu-jitsu apparel. Go to bjjtees.com today.
This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Strychnine Jiu-Jitsu, makers of vintage-inspired tees, hoodies, and rash guards. Go to strychnine.co, that's strych9.co, and use the promo code UNION at checkout to receive 20% off your online order.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Grappler Union Podcast. Paul Maloney alongside Anthony Zito. On this episode, we have Misho Ceko in studio. Misho's a black belt under Ralph Gracie, and he's the owner and head instructor at Chicago Mixed Martial Arts. Enjoy.
I need the 6 minutes. That's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works. Never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
We're live.
All right.
Misho.
Action.
Misho, that's an awesome name. I'm not
Thank
gonna lie.
you.
I think it's very interesting. When I heard about you from Patrick, and I'm like, Misho, wow, that's pretty badass.
And how do you pronounce your last name?
So in Serbian, it's Ceko.
Okay.
But it's been bastardized over the years, so we go by Ceko now.
Ceko.
Oh, is that how they?
And most people that meet me, they're like, well, I was expecting a Japanese woman or a big Russian dude.
I guess I can see that. Yeah.
I'm like, well,
Well, you are pretty tall.
yeah, I'm about 6'2".
6'2"?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like totally built for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I put on some weight over the years, so I'm pushing 220 now.
220. Yeah, you're a handful, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be, not anymore.
Right.
I highly doubt that. I think you're being modest. Well, if your students are any attest to how good you are, they're pretty damn good.
You know, I love teaching, and it's, seeing how passionate they are keeps me motivated. So I'm lucky to have them, and, we keep growing together.
Yeah.
I learn from them as much as they learn from me.
Right.
I think that's common at most schools.
Is this the first school you opened up here on Halstead there?
So I've had a few gyms over the years.
Okay.
Before the current space, we had a gym on Fullerton in Lincoln Park. We rented a mat from a karate dojo. Once we got about 40 or 50 students, then we said, hey, let's get our own space, and kind of took off from there. Before that, I was actually living in Mozambique, and I had an MMA school there. And so I found guys that wanted to train, and literally I was there for a year.
Yeah.
And the thing that was killing me is I need to train somewhere.
Right.
And so in Mozambique, it's a former Portuguese colony. A lot of people do judo. I'm like, I'll start at a judo school.
Uh-huh.
And so I found it online. I contacted the guy. I was like, I'm going to come in tonight. He's like, yeah, please come on in. So I was the only white guy in the whole gym. Like, this is, you're in Mozambique. There's not a lot of white people.
Right.
And he knew some English. He's like, yeah, come and join us. And I said, he asked me if I train. I said, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he's like, oh, that's cool. It sounded like he heard of it. And so they started class with just sparring. So stand-up sparring. And okay, he said, go with this guy. Mm-hmm. And so we start going, and I don't remember all the judo rules. You can't grab the legs, and I just go for takedowns.
Right.
And so I went for a double leg, and I picked him up, and he posted on his hand. This is within 2 minutes of me walking into the gym.
Okay.
He posts on his hand. His elbow pops out, goes the wrong way. Oh. He's on the ground screaming. I just walked into I literally walked into the gym 2 minutes ago.
Right.
And the students under me screaming. I was just I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. Everybody runs over. His arm is bent in the wrong direction.
Oh my.
And the teacher's like, he's like, all right, we got to drive him to the hospital. I was like, okay, I'll pay for his bills. I went.
Sure.
Yeah.
I felt bad.
Right.
And so we got there, and he broke his arm. It was just snapped.
Yeah.
And the family's like, oh, this guy should pay. And I was like, I'll pay. And the coach is like, no, this is an accident. This happens. And he's like, you come with me. So he takes me outside, and we jump in his car, and he drives, to this other location. I have no idea. This is 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. It's dark. And he pull up to another martial arts school. And he says, oh, this is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. I'm like, what? So we go out there, and there's a Brazilian guy. He was a blue belt. And he's like, oh, my friend here, he wants to train with you guys. And the Brazilian guy's like, oh, ask him if he's trained before. He said, yeah. Ask him how long he's been training. I said, oh, it was like 13 or 14 years at that point. And he's like, 3 or 4 years? I was like, no, 13 or 14.
Right.
He's like, what belt are you? I was like, I was a black belt. He's like, all right, you're going to teach, and I'm going to be your student here. And we had, it was probably 15 or 20 guys at that point, and they were using a space from a judo school. And at some point, it kept growing. It just kept growing. More people kept coming. And at one point, the judo school got pissed off and just said, like, you guys can't use our mats anymore.
Really?
So then we literally took the school outside, and we trained in grass.
Nice.
And I don't know if you've ever rolled with, like, when you're drunk at a party when you're young and you roll on grass, like, that shit hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
Like it cuts you up and you're scratching.
It doesn't hurt at the time, though.
It doesn't hurt at the time, right?
Right.
It probably helps if you had a beer or two.
Yeah.
We weren't drunk, but and then at some point I drove to South Africa and bought some, like, those thin 1/4-inch mats that
Yeah.
like you probably shouldn't be grappling on, but they're still better than nothing.
Right.
And I convinced my wife to let me mat up one of our bedrooms in the apartment we were renting. And every night we'd have like 10 or 15 Mozambicans coming into my place to train, and everyone else like in the building is like, "What is this dude doing? Like, why are these dudes coming into his apartment?" Everyone walks out like sweaty and
Right.
So it was quite the experience.
Yeah. And you do gi and no gi.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
I think now I'm transitioning more to no gi.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I put the gi on. It's been a bit, maybe a year or two.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. I think I really learned to love wrestling.
Okay.
And so I try to incorporate as much wrestling as I can. And I'm not particularly good at judo, and then so the grips just get annoying to me. Mm-hmm. And also I'm starting to really like leg locks, and that's kind of a recent phenomenon for me.
Okay.
I would badmouth it for a while.
Oh, were you?
until I met guys who kept putting me in leg locks. I'm like, damn, I got to learn it now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to evolve. What do you think about that combat jiu-jitsu?
So that's another thing. I think I probably crapped on it when I first heard it. I'm like, just, why do you have open hand? Just like, if you're going to hit, you just hit.
Right.
But then I watched some videos, and it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Do I think it has staying power? I'm not sure.
Right.
I think he has a good thing going with the EBI stuff. I think it's exciting and fun to watch. And I don't know if you want to add strikes. I don't know if it adds much to the sport. Like, either you do MMA or you do grappling. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be interesting. Like, would I watch it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's on tonight.
Is it on tonight?
Yeah.
So
The
probably-
full combat one is on tonight.
Is it? Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think he's done, like Eddie's done a great job with the EBI stuff. And I mean, it's a completely different sport that's kind of evolved over the last 5 or 6 years when these leg lock guys are coming in there. And, if you've seen grappling, say 10 or 15 years ago, and you watch it now, it would be almost unrecognizable in some ways.
Yeah.
And so it's evolving, and it's going to continue to evolve.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and I do appreciate the evolution of it. Seeing from back in the day to where it is now, and no gi and the gi, and I mean I'm still infatuated with both. I don't know which one because I started out. My return was in no gi, so I really it's like I did it for so many years.
Yeah.
And in the gi, I've only been doing a year now, and it's just like when I take the gi off, I'm like I just feel like I can go, go. And I guess because you have no grips anymore, so you're not held down as much as you are.
Yeah. We're like, probably like a month out from your 1 year anniversary of training in the gi.
Yeah.
And you've accumulated, 17 gis already?
17 gis.
You're on number 17, aren't you?
17, man.
Yeah. You got problems, bro.
I do have
You
That's
have it.
amazing,
Isn't it?
I don't know if I've bought a gi in 10 years. Like if I have a gi, I've taken it from one of my students who's left it at the gym.
Right, right.
Like I'm done paying for gis. I'm just gonna like.
Yeah, I
There's
got
enough
this
lying
thing.
around.
I get like obsessed. I guess that's a good word
Yeah.
for it.
You're a consumer.
I'm a consumer,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I like to consume stuff.
You probably look good in it too. So like,
It's I like certain style, and you know what we had our
Zito, you're never going to get a sponsorship. Like a gi company would be like, dude, we'd love to sponsor you, but there's no way we could fulfill that appetite. You're going to bankrupt us,
That's true. We had our belt ceremony yesterday, and we roll first, and then we'll eat a little bit, and then Andre will do the ceremony. And like I roll, and I don't like flow roll. Like I'll just go, and I was going hard. Just rolling with everyone. Just good, like a little over an hour I rolled, and I'm just drenched in sweat, and I'm thinking to myself, I got like all these gis, and I only brought one gi. Like I could really use a change of gi. Right? I wish I could just shower, put a nice fresh gi on, and then go out.
Right.
No, I didn't do that. You think I'd bring an extra gi with
You'd
me?
think so. You've got enough.
I know. It's terrible. And then I'm like sitting next to the door, and the door keeps opening and closing. I'm just freezing. I'm like shivering. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Wet
Right.
clothes and but it was still fun. It was a good time.
You do belt ceremonies, Misha?
we do. I think every 6 months we have something.
Yeah, nice.
And I think it's an important part. We used to do the traditional belt ceremony where you just, beat the shit out of somebody with the belt.
Oh, really?
Not anymore?
No, I kind of got away from that. I
Did
think
ya?
Society's a little too violent, and if these videos get out, and it just
That's where they whip everyone. They walk down the middle, and everyone gets whipped with a belt.
It's like I had that done to me, like at every belt level, and it was part of the process. But now it's like everything's on YouTube, and it's there forever. And like if you have a real job, like outside of jiu-jitsu, like you don't want your coworkers seeing you hit other people with belts or getting whacked with belts.
That's true.
But they don't do that for kids, right? Kids don't have to walk that line, do they?
I don't know. Maybe.
When they get their gray belt and orange and yellow, whatever.
Maybe in Brazil. You don't know. Who knows?
Those kids are gangsters.
At health school, they used to hit everybody. I'm sure.
Really? Yeah. I
Yeah.
could see
Plus, that might scare off any new
It scares
clients.
people.
Yeah. They're like, jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
If I've had a free trial on the day of a belt ceremony, they never came back.
Yeah,
They're like, I'm paying you, and then you hit me with a belt. It's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, there's a karate school down the street where like I pay them and I get a belt every week. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the belt. Yeah, that is a weird thing. Andre throws people after he gives you a fresh.
Yeah, he does like a
fresh-
judo
that could be
toss.
cool.
Judo toss. Yeah.
You do anything like that?
Not even, I think, what do we do now?
Just a hug? Just hug it out?
Yeah, I think we just hug it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, congratulations.
Yeah.
We beat each other up every day. So like,
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
it's-
remember.
Yeah, it's fun to beat each other up. I think
And it's-
builds
yeah.
character.
Right.
I mean, there's so many. There's like I feel like we've been at Andre's forever, but realistically, we've only been there since January. But it feels like all the guys that we meet and we hang out with. I feel like I've known them so long,
Right.
and yet it hasn't been that long because we're there so often. We're putting all this time on the mat together, and you just form the relationships a little bit quicker than I think a normal environment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's kind of cool.
Definitely. You know who you could trust somebody, when you fight them.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean? Where like a coworker, it takes a while to develop that relationship.
It does.
It's like, is this guy going to stab me in the back?
Right.
Am I going to get thrown under the bus here? You don't know.
It's just like when you're kids, right? After you fight somebody, you become friends, right? You earn each other's respect.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it happens on the mat. It happens fast, right? And you get pretty close to people.
Yeah.
We got
Build those
we got a guy that's leaving. Oh, it's so sad. Peter's going to work for California, work for Netflix. He's one of our brown belts. And I saw that post. I'm like, oh, fucking Peter. He's like a staple. Like,
Yeah.
man.
One of the originals.
Yeah.
It sucks when people leave, right?
Yeah.
You become a family in the gym, right? And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so every couple months or every year, you see one of your good guys leave, and it's sad. And hopefully you maintain that relationship. Like the bond's always there.
Yeah.
But you still want to, you hate to lose that kind of training partner and friend.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, he's more closer to Paul's size than my size. Usually when I roll with him, it's just a smash fest. I'm really not getting anything off on Peter, but still, it's tough to lose people in the gym. Especially, it's a great. I mean, who wants to go work for Netflix? I mean,
Right.
I'm like, that's pretty badass.
Yeah.
So Misho, what year did you start in?
So I started training in 1998. So I'm going to have my 20-year anniversary in a couple months.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. Like 20 years really flies by. Like I was telling somebody, I remember even 10 years ago, I'm like, man, I get to do this for like another 10 years.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's going to be cool.
At least.
And then 10 years is like, then it's gone.
Yeah.
But I,
So where'd you start?
so I started in California. So I had moved out there for a job when I was about 22, I think. And I was just relaxing one afternoon. Someone left a Maxim out, and there was an article about Ralph the Pitbull Gracie, how he choked out a pit bull, and he was this badass. He was killing people, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah. Right.
I never knew people still trained it. Like, it just didn't follow it very much. I liked the UFC back in the day, but
Yeah.
by 97, 98, nobody really watched it.
Right.
At the end, it said his gym's in Mountain View, California, and I'm like, oh, I'm in Mountain View, California, and his gym was literally down the street from my house. And so after work, I'm like, I'm just going to stop in and see what it's like. And I walk in, and it's a really intense school. Like, it was a very different mentality now than back then than it is now.
Uh-huh.
And he's just a super intense guy. And 20 years ago, even more so. And within, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes at the gym, a fight broke out on the mat. Like, guys were just going hard, and they started throwing punches. Like, this is like my first, foray into the sport. I just walk in, and two guys are just like brawling.
You've
like,
had some messed up day ones, man.
yeah. I should skip day one and just go to day two.
Right.
So if I were sane, I probably would not have gone back to the school.
Right.
Because I'm not. I decided to I was like, hey, I'll do a free trial. And he said, yeah, come on in. And he had a very special gym back then. Like, 20 years ago, there weren't very many schools, right? You had Carlson Gracie in Chicago. You had, like Hickson in LA, Health and Caesar in Northern California, Henzo in New York. Like, there's no more than 10 like really legitimate schools,
right.
And he was one of them. And like the talent on that mat back then is like, you had like BJ Penn, you had both of his brothers, you had Dave Camarillo and Dan Camarillo. Oh, man. You had a guy named Scotty and Gumby. They started on the mat back in the day. Mike Prudencio. I mean, the list, like, these guys were just like unbelievable. And so walking into there, you're like, and the second day was even worse. He used to do battle royals. So he just says, okay, you guys take your gis off, this half, the other half, your gis on. Okay. And we go until one team is done. And you can't leave the mat, and you just try to tap each other out. Once you tap out, you get off the mat. And it's a battle royal. And that was the second day. So I'm like, fuck, I don't know any moves. Like, this is my second day.
Right.
So there must have been 20 people on the mat. And so I'm like, I'll just hang on back. And I'll just wait till, like, the numbers dwindle. And, like, they're going at it. You have 3 guys trying to tap one guy. And
Oh, so they're like, it's not one-on-one.
no.
It's
This is 10 on 10. Like, it doesn't matter. You just try to finish your opponent. It doesn't matter. And everyone's going at once.
A Royal Rumble.
It was yeah.
Damn.
It was what are those called back in the WWE days?
Yeah, Royal Rumbles.
Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
You got to throw the guy over the top rope.
yeah that's it.
Yeah.
And so then I got enough courage to, like, oh, I'm gonna go like try to finish somebody. And the guy I tried to grab was like 150 pounds, and his name was Dan Camarillo. I don't know if you know the Camarillo brothers.
Yeah. I know.
Dave was like, he was a coach at AKA for Kane and Josh, and I was
Right.
like, Dan was his brother, and Dan was like, his judo was probably better than Dave's at that point. And I'm like, oh, I could smash this guy. I'm like 220. And as soon as he gripped like my gi, I'm like, oh shit, something doesn't feel right. And he tossed me over his head, midair. He's already on my arm. I'm tapping out before I hit the mat. And I'm like, whoa, this is pretty amazing stuff.
Right.
And after that, I was like, I kind of just fell in love with the sport and kept going. I was like, if he can do it at 150, like I gotta find out what he's doing.
Right.
I didn't know he's been doing judo for 20 years.
Yeah.
So your exposure day one was like just jump into the class? And he let you spar like right away?
There wasn't a lot of structure. It was just like, it was like,
Not how it was back then.
he wasn't trying to create a business. He was actually just promoting his martial arts style. It's like he wanted students that were the toughest, right? Like if you didn't have the heart, like to figure it out over time,
It's definitely a good way of it wasn't, that's.
you're not going to have 1,000 students, but you'll have 50 of the toughest, right? Because the people who stick around are the ones that who have the heart. Like when somebody walks into my gym, I never know who's going to stick around or not. It doesn't matter how big you are, how many muscles you have. It's like, it's really in your heart, right? The smart ones can check their ego at the door. The hard-headed ones have to get the ego beat out of them over time. And the ones that have no heart kind of dissolve, right?
Yeah.
And you can never tell who's going to stick around. Like if you asked me, I'd get it wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
And so I made a bunch of really, really tough guys that just love to train and hang together. Like, we had a warehouse that we all lived in. So there's like 10 up to 15 people in the warehouse sleeping on couches and wherever. Like whoever had money at the end of the month paid the rent. Jiu-jitsu videos. These are like VHS cassettes back in the day. And they're just, we didn't watch anything else. Like if the TV was on, somebody was watching a jiu-jitsu video. We had mats in the back. The gym was around the corner. Somebody would steal Help's keys and make a copy. And we go to the gym and train, and then he'd find out, and you have to give him back, and then he'd steal another key. But it was a lifestyle, right? It was twice a day, every day, probably 4 to 6 hours every single day.
Right.
And you never took a day off because you didn't want to.
Right.
And so you get good really fast, right? And the better your training partners are, the better you're going to be.
Yeah, they definitely elevate you for sure.
I mean, it's like iron sharpening iron, right? Like if you have people that you're better than and you train with them, you're gonna progress. But if you have like people who are really pushing you to your limits, like that's when you kind of go to the next level.
Yeah.
There's a reason like the best people train together because they're constantly pushing themselves to even get better.
Right.
So how do you treat new students on day one? Because I know like Mineko, for instance, new student comes in, he'll have a higher belt, go off to the side with them, be like, hey, teach him a rear naked choke, teach him an arm bar, teach him a defense for this.
Well, teach them the warm-ups first. You
Absolutely.
know how to do judo rolls and all that stuff.
Right.
First.
I've seen him do both. I mean, they won't necessarily join the class
Oh,
on
yeah,
day
yeah,
one, So just to get them interested in like, hey, this is a choke. This is how do you do it?
Probably similar to that, and it really depends on the day and my mood and how many and the level of the students.
Right.
Like if there's a couple new students, I'll make the class. I'll focus on fundamentals. But you got to remember with brand new students, you're not going to impress them with like one or two techniques, right? It's like you have to sell the narrative and the story of jiu-jitsu, right? It's the reason we bought into this, the Gracie story from 1993 and, from 1916 and Helio and Carlson, you're drawn to the story. You're not drawn to the moves, right? And then you're inspired by what they were accomplished, and you want to accomplish something. Yeah. And so I think with new students, if you can catch their interest through like telling the narrative of jiu-jitsu and its power versus just like showing them how a rear naked choke. I mean, you can learn jiu-jitsu on YouTube videos now. It's right. I think it was, I don't remember Evan Tanner.
Yeah.
He passed away I don't know, was it 5 or 7 years ago? But the story was that he learned jiu-jitsu off tapes. Like you can literally learn off tapes, right? Yeah. Is it the real jiu-jitsu that people talk about? Probably not, and it's enough to, grapple.
Right.
So I focus less on moves and more on kind of the philosophy to engage them, right? If I can capture their minds, they usually come back.
So you have a sit down with them and like
it's through the class. Like I'll spend more time talking through moves, talking through strategies. Giving examples of what happened in the past when people have used this kind of move from a UFC fight, from a Pride fight, I really try to make it as applicable as possible. Like I want to make sure that, I don't teach something that just works in a textbook, that I've seen someone execute live in a match, in a fight. And I think it becomes more real to the person, even as a new student. Like you never really fully grasp everything for quite a while.
It
Right.
does take a while.
You're just kind of getting beat up for a few months.
Yeah, I'd say I always say 3 months. You gotta give jiu-jitsu at least 3 months because you really don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Unless you come from a wrestling background,
Right,
unless you
right.
already have some type of athletic background like that.
Yeah.
You gotta get. If you're just fresh off the street and hey, what's this jiu-jitsu thing? You definitely need 3 months.
Yeah. Like you can't quit after a month and be like, I don't like it. It's
Right.
like you don't even know what you're quitting yet.
Right.
You don't
You
even know what you're doing.
Right.
You know?
Now getting back to like the Ralph Gracie
Yeah.
days. I mean, God, to train with those guys. Like, so when did you leave that gym? When did you get?
So I always tell my students a story when I first trained with like BJ.
Yeah.
Which like he's probably the most famous person to come out of the gym.
Okay.
And I was
Kurt Osiander out of that gym?
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, Kurt's there. Kurt runs the San Francisco. He has a handful of schools throughout the Bay Area now, and Kurt runs the San Francisco gym.
Okay.
But I remember doing like guard pass drill, and that was like Ralph's warm up. It would be like 45 minutes or an hour of just guard pass drill. So you get in a line, and he puts down the 5 best guys. He'd be like, okay, Dave Camarillo, BJ, a couple other guys.
Past BJ's guy.
Shit. You know, like, and he's like an hour of that. So it's basically an hour of them tapping on everybody else.
Right.
And so, but I didn't know who they were. So
course,
I just see this little Hawaiian kid, and he was probably 19 at that time. And he's like, "Oh, this man is strong." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm strong." And like, then he proceeded to like tie me into a pretzel and tie me like a dozen times. I'm like, "Fuck!" I was like, something's not right.
Right.
So yeah, that was it was. I got lucky, and like I didn't research schools, and just I got lucky to happen to fall into a good school.
Right.
But there weren't other options. I think I was actually. We had phone books back in the day, and I remember. You remember phone books?
Of course.
Yeah. They still have those,
They still come around every now and
Yellow
then.
Pages?
Yellow
Did they
Pages.
really?
something like that.
What a waste of paper.
And I remember trying to find a martial arts school, even before I landed at Helps. And I'd be like, "Oh, Hapkido, yeah, I can try Hapkido." I think I seen that work. Or Taekwondo. Like, imagine, like, it's just chance that I walked into Helps, right? Like, I could have walked into some, random school and like been either lost in a style where I bought into something that didn't work, or I kind of got turned off to the sport. But I just got lucky and landed there.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good luck.
So yeah, so I got that was, and they're a very nurturing group. Like they beat you up, but if you got heart and you keep coming back, they respect you, right? And you keep handing that down to the next generation.
Yeah.
And Ralph has been around. I think his first gym was in 1996. He opened in Mountain View with Cesar Gracie.
Now, what's his relationship? How does he fall in the timeline of all the Gracies? Who's he under?
So Ralph, Henzo, and Hein are brothers.
Brothers, okay.
Yeah. So they, like, his cohort was like, obviously his brothers and Carlson Jr. and a bunch of those guys. I think Ralph got his black belt from Carlinhos and his dad, Hobson. So I'm trying to remember. So he came to the U.S. in probably like 94, 95 with Caesar's help. And they started the first academy together. I don't remember why they split, but then Ralph did his own thing in Mountain View. I think Caesar's gym was in Pleasanton, and he's produced like some monsters, the Diaz brothers and Jake Shields, and there's just a ton of guys coming out of there. They had much more of an MMA focus, Caesar's guys.
Okay.
Ralph's guys are more kind of jiu-jitsu. Kurt and those guys.
Right.
And Henzo's also. Well, Henzo has some awesome jiu-jitsu guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just everything over there.
It's everything, right? Because some of Henzo's guys are going MMA. Like
Oh, a
Tony.
bunch. Yeah, a bunch.
All those guys.
They, I don't know if you've been to the school in New York, but
haven't, no.
Oh man, it must be like, it's like 25 or 30,000 square feet. It's just massive in Manhattan. I think it's in Midtown. So I trained there for about 6 months in 2005 when I was working in New York.
That's insane. I wonder what the mat fees are there. I mean, to pay for that much square footage in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, it's got to be 20 to 30 grand a month.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, how much are you paying there, mat fees? $300 a month?
Yeah, it's right around. I think it was like 250 or 300.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, I think he had probably close to 12, 13, 1,400 students. So, I mean, it's just a massive place.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you get that big, you really have to have, like, systems and processes in place to control that type of volume.
Yeah.
And so the people who are the old school guys don't like processes and they don't like order and structure. But, you know, if you want a viable business, you have to have, there's a trade-off, right? If you have 20 guys, yeah, you can do whatever you want. But once you have 1,000 guys, without any order, you have chaos.
Yeah. I'm sure, I mean, they can't all know each other. It's got to be crazy.
No.
I mean, even at Maneko's gym, Paul and I still, I'm sure there's people we haven't met.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's got so many students,
Yeah.
you know, people.
And then
come
some
in and
people only go to the 10 a.m. class.
Right,
Because they work
exactly.
nights and stuff, you know.
out. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
So you were, what belt rank did you go
So,
up to?
so I started in 1998. I got, I was with Health until 2004. So I got my black belt through Health. So,
Okay.
After 2004, I moved back to Chicago.
Got your black belt in 6 years?
Yeah, I got it in 5 years. So but I also trained like I was addicted.
Right.
Like it was every single day. It was videos.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything else at that point.
right.
It was either training or watching videos or thinking about it.
I mean, he's training with BJ Penn.
No
bro.
shit, yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's going to get his black belt pretty quick.
So, in 2004, I said, oh, you know, I want to do something different. I went back to graduate school. So I moved back to Chicago. And then I started training at Carlson's. Senior was around back then. So senior and junior were running their gym. And they just had a ton of guys, right? Like they've been around forever. And senior is just a really inspirational guy. I don't know if you had a chance to meet him.
Never had a chance.
But he was great. Like, you know, just an awesome guy, big heart. Junior's the same way. You know, they basically created jiu-jitsu in Chicago.
Yeah.
And they had, you know, many of their students have kind of gone to open up their own gyms throughout the city, right? And so as an instructor, that's the one of the things that you deal with is like, you know, you need to support your students, right? If someone's good at jiu-jitsu and they love it, eventually they want to open their own gym. So either you can get behind them and support them in that, or others, like, you know, they become offended that their students are opening up gyms and see them as competition. And Junior he's promoted it, right? He's never told someone he couldn't open up a gym, right? He knows how good he is. He knows what their school offers, and his students are, you know, there's a handful of schools now that are Carlson Gracie Jr. black belts. Even one of the instructors at my gym, Tony Williams, is a black belt under junior and senior, and you know, and junior comes by and he used to do seminars under gym all the time and teach classes, and he's a great guy.
Yeah. So coming from Half's as a black belt out in California and then moving to Chicago and jumping in with the Carlson's team, what was the main difference that you noticed? Because it was both Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
on, you know, different sides of the country.
Yeah, it wasn't. You know what? The style difference between like Half and Carlson wasn't dramatic, right? They had very simple jiu-jitsu, and simple, like when I say it, is a compliment, right? It's the fundamentals, right? Theirs was like jiu-jitsu for mixed martial arts. It's a lot of grinding. It's hard-nosed jiu-jitsu.
All their shit worked.
Everything worked. Like they're not doing fancy stuff,
Right.
And Half's mentality was the same thing. Like if it didn't work in MMA for the most part, he wasn't like interested in learning it, right? Because there's so many other things to focus on. The complexity in jiu-jitsu comes with the way you incorporate the fundamentals, the way you string them together, how tight you can make them. Like you see a guy like Ralph Gracie, and you watch his jiu-jitsu, and there's nothing fancy about it, but you can't do anything to stop him. Right? When we're at Henzo's, and he would come in and train. I didn't have a chance to train with him, but I've seen him there. I've seen him around. And he just walks through black belts, like one after another. And you know exactly he's going to pass, side control, mount, you know,
Cross
lapel
collar
choke, cross collar choke.
Yeah.
And you know what he's doing, and you still can't stop him. And you just can't, like,
It's incredible.
and like, I don't know, he must be 35 or 36. And I remember I first met him in 2000. So I went to Brazil to train when I was a purple belt. And I was at Gracie Baja. And that's like the mecca of jiu-jitsu. You walk on a mat, and everyone's a black belt, and a few purples, a couple browns. And there's like one kid, he's like a blue belt. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's Ralph Gracie. You got to watch him. And at the blue belt, he was just smashing people. Even black belts. Yeah. Like, and he must have been like 16 at that time. Yeah. And he's like just a gangly kid. But everybody was even talking about him back then. They're like, oh, he's the next Gracie to do something. And look at him now, and, in grappling. He's kind of the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
And he's really good at MMA too.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, so that was fun. And then coming to Carlson's, the style wasn't different.
What about the teaching style?
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
Pretty similar. I think one of the first practices, he called me over. He's like, who taught you how to tie your belt? Like, I was a black belt. He's like, so you can't tie your belt like that. And so
How did you used to tie it?
I don't know. No idea. Like,
You didn't do the super knot, did you?
No, I didn't. Like, I didn't focus on, I just wanted to
Black
close.
belts don't do that.
I just wanted, is that what you do?
Yeah.
See, I used to. I used to do the super. I don't do the super knot anymore. I do one right below it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why'd you stop?
I don't know.
Okay.
Too much shit from you.
Yeah.
It's too fancy.
It's too fancy.
Isn't it? It's way too fancy.
You got to spend a couple hours learning how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you can just go work on a triangle for those 2 hours.
It's way too symmetrical. It's like, it looks like this flower that you tied around your waist. It looks like a bouquet.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I tie it now, I like it so much better.
Yeah. Me too.
And you got to remember that you want your belt to fall off.
That's what he was saying.
Like, you don't
the
want people
super
to
knot
grab
doesn't
it.
come off.
Right. So then you're giving your opponent a grip.
A grip,
You
that's
look sexy, right? You
Right,
have
yeah.
you're tight,
Exactly.
tight gi. It's like custom made for you,
Yeah.
and you have that super knot, and
Exactly.
you look good.
Yeah.
You look good.
Look great.
But you're giving your opponent a forever grip.
Yeah, exactly. And Paul, that made sense. So I stopped doing that. Let the belt fall off. Buckle the lapel
Eventually,
open.
you end up listening to me. There's
Eventually.
always resistance in the beginning
Little
for
bit.
some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. Maybe we could just get past that pattern and you could just start listening.
I guess you're right. I'll try.
Yeah.
So, how are you tying your belt then?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember. It's been a year and a half now since I probably tied it on.
Right.
I usually teach the no-gi classes at the gym, so we have a couple other black belts who are monsters on the mat as
So,
well.
what was that like just coming over to Carlson's like on the first couple of days? Just like, oh, who's that guy? Who's this black belt from California? Blah, blah. Did you have like a target
I mean,
on your
anytime
back
you
for-
walk into
for
a
sure,
gym,
right?
like if you're a purple belt or higher, there's that like feeling out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they want to, what does this person have?
What kind of a purple belt is he?
Yeah, where does he fit in our food chain?
Right.
Like you got to find your place in the food chain.
Right.
Right. Like you can't, if you walk into school and you beat everyone, then it makes the school look bad.
Right.
Right. So people go at you a little bit harder.
Do you
And
hold back a little bit for that reason?
I don't recall. I don't think so.
But I mean, what do you think now? Like you walking into another school, you black belt. Were you first, second? What are you now?
I don't, so Health didn't do degrees back then. I don't know. He must do degrees now.
So you're just a black belt.
Just
You
a
haven't
black
gotten
belt,
any
yeah.
degrees.
No, I've been
'Cause
a
I
black
would
belt
assume
for,
you'd be third degree by now.
I don't know. It's been a black belt for 13 years. I don't know. Something like that.
Doesn't matter at that point, right?
But you so as a new student, right? You're walking into a gym, especially as a black belt. You also don't want to show off. So like
Right.
you're gonna do enough where you don't get smashed,
Right.
but also you don't want to do any smashing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You want to earn people's respect,
Exactly.
but you don't want to be disrespectful.
You
so
don't
I
come
think,
in guns blazing.
yeah,
Right.
If you hurt someone on your first day, then you look like an idiot.
Right.
You've been there. You know this.
So no, firsthand experience. Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Oh my God.
And so that's every single school you walk into. Like as a white and blue, you can kind of fall into place, and people are like, oh, he's probably at our gym. We just haven't seen him around.
Right.
But if you're a higher level, purple, brown, and a black belt, you're going to get tested no matter where you go.
Yeah.
And I think I've moved like 10 times in 10 years at some point, and so every year is a different school, or every couple of years is a different school. And it's this, the first day you're a little nervous because, oh, shit, I got to train twice as hard today because people are going to come after you.
Right.
And then by the second practice, third practice, you know where you fit and how good you are.
Do you enjoy training, like being at your level? Like right now, there's some white belts that I'm like, I'm gonna pass on this. Like I just don't want to feel that way because they're like really like anxious and they got that super tense, and you're just like, oh, I don't
Bit spastic.
I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to fight this one off.
Right.
I know, and then you tap him, and you're like, oh, he's gonna go harder now.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Do you feel like that
All
too?
the time.
All the time, right? Yeah.
I'm way more selective in who I train with.
Yeah.
Like there are people that just don't have a lot of control. And so when you're in your 40s, you don't want to get hurt and you want to train longer.
Yeah.
And so you have to be more selective. I think if you want to be around forever and training into your 50s and 60s, you have to be careful. Like
I agree.
there was a crazy podcast. I don't remember who it was. It was Eric Paulson. Remember Eric Paulson?
Yeah.
You ever see that podcast? I think it was like Rolled Up.
No.
Oh man, like he's a legend in the sport.
Yeah.
Like, he's been around forever, and I don't know if anyone has more techniques in their arsenal than him. I think he trained Barnett, right? Josh
Yes.
Barnett. But he says some wild stuff. Like, I don't know if the dude's high all the time. I used to love watching him fight. He's well-rounded, but man, he's just like, he was talking about the negative energy of some people, like becoming part of his energy.
Yeah.
And so then he'd have to go to like a shaman and get it like
Cleansed.
and then he'd take these special baths. It's crazy. I don't know if he's been hit in the head a lot. Like, he would talk about that.
I don't know, but the Greeks have that thing where they call it the mati, where you give them like the evil eye, and they do this ceremony to release the mati from you. I used to date a Greek girl, and like her sister would do this thing to me, and she's like, "Oh, your aura is like whatever," and I'm like, "All right, whatever." And so she's like, "Just I'm gonna do this thing," and she like pull her like hands over your head, and like take like air away from your. It's weird. She's like, "How do you feel better?" I'm like, "Yeah,
much
okay,
better.
I feel so much better."
I feel great. Can I go now?
How long did that relationship
It
last?
was weird. It was weird. It was
How long did you
strange.
date her for?
But yeah, that's a weird tradition. They really believe in it. The Greeks do. They believe in this, the evil eye.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing. You know,
guess.
there's a lot worse shit out there than that.
Cleanse your aura.
Cleanse your aura.
You're not hurting anybody.
No. Man, Eric Paulson.
Yeah. So what about Paulson? He was doing a bunch of
Yeah, he was
mushrooms and talking about.
it sounded
bats.
like it.
Yeah.
He was telling the story about his last MMA fight. And he's like, you know, he trained forever. He thought he was in great shape, and he got in a ring, and he lost his ponytail by that point. I don't know if you remember him fighting in his ponytail. And
I do.
Somebody was holding him. And he won the fight, and he's on top of the world. He's on the cage. And then someone in the crowd said, "Way to go, Grandpa." And he's like, "Fuck." I'm like, the guy just called me Grandpa. He's like, "That was the last fight I've ever did." Like, and it's about growing old in this sport, right?
Yeah.
In your mind, you're that 20-something, right? You're still in shape, and you got all these muscles, and you're trained hard, and your body's not there anymore, right? And you don't see it. And you see it on some of these guys who are fighting in the UFC in their late 30s, right? And this is after the drug testing. But even so, their bodies are aging.
Yeah.
But that fighter mentality doesn't leave you, so you still kind of see yourself at your peak. But you know, you're slower, you're less flexible, your joints are tighter. You're not processing moves as fast,
Right.
And it's a hard thing to deal with as you age. I think that's the hardest thing. Like, as you get older, is like knowing that you're never going to be at that peak form anymore,
Yeah.
and coming to terms with that.
Knowing that you're past your prime.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. And it's tough. I think that, you know, the UFC fighters now that are in their 30s, they've got so many miles on them.
Yeah,
That, you
for
know,
sure.
maybe they should be still in their prime, but they started out when they were 16 getting, like, you know, hit in the head or whatever. I mean, look at BJ Penn. I mean, why doesn't he just stick with jiu-jitsu? I would just love to see him do jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Yeah, I
Like, you know, why is he still
Got a
trying
lot
to
of
like,
miles on
fight?
his body.
the last few fights should not have happened.
Yeah, shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he was literally. 5 years ago, if someone said who's the best fighter ever, and most people say BJ, and now he's not even. You know, his legacy is tarnished, but it's not even about your legacy. It's like it's about his health.
Right.
Like, he doesn't look like the same person.
No, he doesn't.
You have a lot of miles.
What age do you think is the peak age for a jiu-jitsu athlete?
It depends, right? It's like it depends when you start, because there's
Exactly, yeah.
the jiu-jitsu, the learning curve. There's a 10-year. It's like more like a 10-year process where you can you kind of have peak knowledge. Like, you can always learn, but and so it's where you know the most information. And it intersects where your body's at its peak. And for other people, depending on when you start, it happens at different times.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, a guy like Rogers is 35 and he's still, you know, he just beat Buchecha was it a couple months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So athletically, most people are probably in their prime in their late 20s. From a knowledge standpoint, probably in mid 30s. And so, you know,
Yeah, because Rogan used to talk about, like, you know, the peak age of MMA would probably be around 30 to 32. And that's because guys are starting to fight somewhere around 22, 23 out of college wrestling or whatever. But now you're seeing kids 7, 8 years old, getting into MMA.
Yeah, it's bringing it down.
Yeah,
right
the
there.
peak might be 24
Yeah.
soon.
Did you watch? Was it last night? The UFC?
Yeah.
It was last night. Like, man, Diego Sanchez should not be fighting anymore.
That's it.
No.
What's he doing? Why do
That
they
was
keep giving this guy
terrible. He
fights?
looks. I mean, he just looks. His body looks so old. His movements are awkward. Like, he was always an awkward guy, and he's just a hell of a fighter. Like, you'll never have someone in the UFC that had Diego's heart. Like,
Right.
Of course.
you know, he could fight anybody, but now it's just like someone has to step in and say, dude, let's find something else.
Yeah.
Because that was like a horrible, horrible knockout.
That was intense.
And he's already
when I saw him get just elbowed to the. Oh my god! I was
he's
like,
already having
He's
issues with
already
like his
punchy.
memories. He is punchy.
Yeah.
There's a great article in Bleacher Report on him. I don't know if you guys checked it out. But he's talking about his career and some of the battles he had. And once he kind of got to the top, he got into like women and drugs and kind of brought him. And he left Jackson's and he moved somewhere to LA to train, and it wasn't working out. And then he was training. He went back to Jackson. I guess recently he was saying some kind of French grappler. He said came to a school and kind of freaked out and just cold cocked him and knocked him out in a training session.
Jeez.
And he said then he's having some memory issues after that. And he's been knocked out a lot.
Yeah.
And then you got to remember, like, every time you see someone get knocked out in the ring, in practice, it's probably 2, 3, 4x that, right? Like a guy like Vanderlei, where you train hard all the time,
Right.
he's probably had countless concussions. Like, it's just not right. At some point, you got to stop. Even Mark Hunt.
Do you think the UFC should like say, listen, we need to step in? I thought they had some kind of like, wasn't someone like coming in between the fighters, kind of like, not to say mentoring them, but kind of like consulting with the fighters and kind of like
I think Forrest Griffin.
wasn't someone like supposed to
That's
be
like
like
his role.
his
you know?
role, like to kind of like be like that guy?
I think they got
with them.
Yeah.
They got fired. I think Forrest lost his job in Mad after the buyout.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
right. That's right.
Because you're right. I mean, there should be some type of body, like governing body, with these fighters at a certain age. You're like, come on, man. I know you want to still do this.
Like just how the referee jumps in as you're getting pummeled in the cage, there should be someone that jumps in when, you've accumulated enough pummelings and said, you can't fight anymore.
With all the research on like CTE now,
Right.
like if I have 2 girls, I don't have boys, but I would not have them sparring. Like when I was in my 20s, I did Muay Thai and boxing as well. And you'd have after every sparring session, you have headaches, right? It just, the rest of the day is shot because you're going to have a headache no matter what. Even if you're not going super hard, but you're going to take a couple shots and you're going to be rocked.
Right.
And that accumulates. And, if you're doing it for 20 years, like Mark Hunt did an interview like a few weeks before his fight, and he said, I can't remember what I'm doing. Sometimes I forget, I have to call my wife or something. And then Dana White's like, you're not fighting.
Right.
And so now Dana White, they're like, he's a dick for protecting you. And you said you're losing your mind,
Right.
like your memory. Like,
Yeah, I guess in this age of like social media and all these people having their own voice, you hear that. You're like, oh, on one hand, we want to protect the fighters, but then on the other hand, when you try to protect them, you're the dick. Just let the guy fight. He's a warrior.
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I know you guys. You always had those. When we went to see the UFC, when I went to go see the UFC, you always had those guys in the crowd, kick him in the head or punch him, like just yelling ridiculous
They don't know what
things.
they're
They have no
saying.
idea what they're saying. But they're fans of the sport and they buy all the gear and you need those guys. But you just can't that can't be the narrative. You can't always listen to those guys. And Dana White obviously does his own thing.
yeah. Have you seen Gary Goodridge? Remember Gary?
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
No.
Oh man, it's bad.
Really?
Oh, his. I mean, it's as bad as I've ever seen it on somebody.
Wow.
And he's probably in his late 40s now, but he had some nasty knockouts, and he would fight anybody. And now he's paying the price. When I was living in Boston, I trained Muay Thai with Mark Delagrada. So Mark owns the Sit Yao Tong.
Yeah.
Mark's a fantastic coach, unbelievable fighter, just a super cool guy. He coached Kenny Florian and Jorge Rivera and a bunch of those guys. And he was telling me this story. I probably shouldn't be repeating his stories, but this one's innocent.
Okay.
They were it must have been at a UFC, and I think Joe Rogan was performing his comedy act at a club. And Gary Goodridge was next to him. And so Mark was like, hey, do you mind if I walk by to go grab a beer? And like Gary Goodridge wanted to fight him for like whatever. And Mark's like de-escalated the situation. He's like, oh, Gary, good to see you. And then
Right.
Gary just kind of chilled out. But imagine to have that kind of,
trigger.
the trigger that just because somebody wants to walk by, and that's not normal, right? That's the result of a lot of damage,
Right.
To your brain over the years.
Yeah.
And it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
Like what's that guy, the Patriots guy who got busted for that murder? Aaron
Hernandez.
Hernandez. So they said his CTE was the worst they've ever seen in someone his age.
Yeah.
And from just football. And he was young. I think he was 4 or 5 when he was arrested. So
it looked like he had the brain of an 80-year-old with CTE.
Right. It's crazy.
So more and more research is coming out, and I think gyms will need to change the way they train. Guys like Robbie Lawler, who's just a complete monster and a brawler. He said he went 3 or 4 years without sparring because of issues with concussions, and he still became champion of Strikeforce and UFC after that.
Right.
So I think you're gonna have to change that whole mentality of going hard every single day is going to destroy your body and going to destroy your brain. Like your brain wasn't meant to be pounded.
Right.
every
And it's not
single
like
day.
taking shots to the chin. Like it's not like you develop like
Toughness.
It's not like the more shots I take, the more punishment I could take in the ring. It's not. It's kind of it weakens it. Like
Yeah,
as soon
right.
as your jaw goes and you can't take a shot anymore.
Unlike jiu-jitsu, when I feel like my body is tougher, the more I roll, the more
Well, of course.
I feel like my arms, my chest, everything feels stronger. But yeah, you're right.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite with if you're getting punched in the head
with the chin. You
with
know.
the chin. It's rough. What about Anthony Pettis? Now it's a young kid, and he can't find his way. It seems it's just his body's just giving up on him. Like he got injured last night. It was a rib thing, something. But he was just getting wrecked in that cage.
Who knows? I mean, maybe the PD thing. I don't know. There are a lot of guys are fighting a lot different than they were 3 years ago.
It's true. Yeah.
So, what about you, Misha? You ever have taken any MMA fights?
I haven't taken MMA fights, but we did smokers in a day, did a lot of kickboxing, stuff like that. But by the time I got out of the sport in 2003, MMA kind of wasn't big. Like it kind of blew up in 2004 or 5.
Whenever the Forrest
Ultimate
Griffin,
Fighter,
yeah, right.
Griffin and Bonner.
Right.
So I've always loved to, but I'm glad that I still have my wits about me and didn't take a lot of beatings.
Did you do any IBJJF tournaments or anything like that?
Yeah, so I did the Pan Ams.
Okay.
In 2003, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but as a brown belt, I think I got my brown belt I don't know, it must have been a couple of weeks before the tournament. I'm like, I'm excited. I want to see how I stand. And they're like, you got to watch this guy. He's a brown belt from Gracie Baja. He had 7 matches and they lasted a total of 8 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
And I got steamrolled. It was a Braulio Stima, and I was just like,
That'll do it.
Yeah. Luckily, I still got third in the tournament, which I was kind of proud of. But I didn't forget that.
So plan on doing any more competitions coming up?
I wanted it, so I'm putting together a team for the World's Nogies in December. So I was hoping to train for that, but now I'm like battling a couple old man injuries.
Okay.
My neck won't move.
Oh no!
Oh, really?
So we're having some competition training after this podcast. So we'll see how that goes.
Who's in that class?
So I'm
sure
bringing
Patrick's in that class.
Patrick for sure. He's a monster. So we have a couple black belts now. I think the Carlson Gracie black belt, Tony Williams, and a guy from Serbia who joined me about 2 years ago, Alex Rajacic. He came out of nowhere. He's been training, I don't know, probably 10 years or so, but just an amazing competitor. And footlocks, he introduced footlocks to our gym. He literally brought
Did
it
you have
there.
a sambo background?
Nope.
No?
Just he trained in Serbia where they didn't really have a lot of high level guys, so the guys kind of invented their own games.
Right.
And he goes to New York and he trains with kind of the Danaher's guys. So a lot of the footlocks they use, he's incorporated. There's another guy in Brooklyn, also a Serbian guy in his late 40s. His name is Doug Polinkovic, that Alex trains with there. And I haven't met him, but Alex said this guy's just unbelievable, even at like 45, 46 years old. And so he gets a chance to roll with like Tonin and all the Death Squad guys. And his you know he's going to get to your foot, and he still gets to your foot. Like, you just can't stop it. And so those guys are going to compete. We have a couple brown belts, probably 7 or 8 purple belts that are going. Nice. So this is the first time we've all done it in an organized way.
Yeah.
We're going to do competition training, take it seriously, go there and and see what we can do.
Bring in a big squad, like what, 15 guys?
So probably 10 now. More, we're going to convince a couple other ones. Yeah. Like, some of these young guys are phenomenal. I got a couple like 18, 19-year-olds, purple belts that are like, I wish I had their drive and athleticism at that age. Just all muscle, all heart. They're scary to go up against. And so we'll see how they do. We had one guy at a gym, a relative of mine, and he was when he was 16 years old. We knew he was a stud, so we'd sign him up in, I think it was like Grappler's Quest or something, in the adult division. And I think he had 8 or 9 matches and 8 or 9 submissions, like won every single match at 16. And he's built like he's just all muscle. And somebody posted one of his videos, and they posted it recently, and there's a video from 3 years ago. He's 19 now, and it just went viral. It said 16-year-old kid chokes out adult male, and he literally choked him out. The guy passed out.
Oh, okay.
And in the comment section, I still laugh about this. And someone retitled it, and it said, "Roided out teen chokes out below average male." So I'd hate to be the guy who got choked out, but we have a couple of these guys that are phenomenal athletes, and we'll see how they do at the world level.
Yeah,
you're going to get some high level competition there.
Yeah, I was, Paul and I went to Master Worlds this past year, and I've done a couple IBJJFs in the gi, and it still didn't prepare me for what I was going up against. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. World competition is totally different. The level is different than you're going to get at your Newbury Nagas and whatnot. But yeah, it's something to definitely work towards.
Now there's tournaments every month, every other week, and if you live in California, when we started, there was probably 2 tournaments a year.
Yeah,
right. There was a guy, Joe Morera. He was a black belt out of outside of LA. So he ran an annual tournament. So everybody went to that. That was my first tournament, and I think I was training. I may have trained 4 or 5 months before that. So I was a white belt, and I remember I knew like one move really well, the sit-up sweep, but I could get it on anybody.
Okay, yeah.
No matter who it was, I could get it. And I was and Health like, just do the sit-up sweep. That's it. I was like, but I don't know how am I going to get him down to the mat? He's like, don't worry about it. Just do the sit-up sweep.
So sit-up sweep is that hip bump sweep?
Yeah, the hip bump. Yeah,
or the Kimura sweep. It's all the same. Right? Yeah.
And so 6 matches. Everyone I won with the hip bump sweep.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
but you're very long, so I can see how that would
just took
definitely
mount.
work for you.
You got the 2 for sweep, 4 for mount.
You got 6,
and then stayed on top.
A couple guys I choked out with by squeezing. I didn't know it choked, so you did the maniac choke on
rape
him.
choke.
Maniac choke.
We rebranded it to the maniac.
That's
now.
good.
Oh, did you?
Maniac. That sounds
You'd be
better.
a little-
It sounds
better.
PC. Definitely more PC.
Yeah.
Come on,
That need.
Paul.
Hey, I didn't get the memo.
But I
that
remember
definitely needed some help. That name.
At that tournament, there was a purple belt, and I was like, "Oh, watch this purple belt! He's gonna leg lock everybody." And it was Dean Lister.
Oh shit!
So he was a purple belt. This is in '98. Yeah. Man. So you had all the guys, even like they're competing back then, and like seeing them 20 years later. Now they're the old guys in the sport.
Yeah.
Right. Dean was like a hell of a he was fantastic even back then. And I don't know. I was watching a video, and he showed his arm. And he has a divot in his arm, in his forearm, from all the footlocks he does. Like, he's applied so much pressure to his forearm that it goes in, and like legs just kind of fall into that hole and get stuck. If you look at his forearm,
gangster. Javier, where you at with that?
Yeah, Javi.
Where's
the divot in your arm?
Our good friend Javier Palomo, who just received his brown belt. Congratulations.
Congrats, Javi.
Well overdue.
Good work.
I think.
Yeah. Another leg lock expert in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah,
there's a few. They're pretty sophisticated now. Like, a lot of them I don't understand anymore. They've kind of gone past me.
Well, you got a good crew of guys to show you. That's for sure.
Yeah.
How many students you got, Misha?
So we must have between all the programs. So we have more of an MMA gym. So it's like half Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and half kickboxing. So. Brian Gasway is one of my partners in the gym. Brian's a former UFC fighter, and he's been around the scene forever. I think he's had like 60 fights.
Jeez.
He's just a specimen.
Yeah.
Brian knows he grew up in the fight scene in Chicago. He's been, I think he had 4 fights in the UFC. He has a great match on YouTube where he fights. You remember Pele, Landy Johns from Shootbox?
I can't remember.
He was one of the original Shootbox guys before Vanderlei, before Shogun. And, he was like, if you have a chance and go back and watch some of these old Vale Tudo fights, watch Pele's fights. Okay. Like he was a man. And him and Brian fought in an event. I don't know, it's been about 10 years, but Pele kicked Gasaway and his tib fib broke in half, and his leg just like folded, like full in the middle, and Brian just like in shock, like you see a guy's leg just fold from a kick, and so yeah, Brian's amazing. He took a couple Thai fights and Muay Thai fights in Thailand just a couple of years ago. Like he was 43, 44, went out there and got a couple knockouts and still competes, and is a very inspiring guy. So at our gym, I don't know, we probably have, and I haven't counted, but it's around 200, 250.
Jesus.
Between kickboxing and jiu-jitsu.
Nice, man. Good for you.
That's great.
Yeah, we have a younger team, but they're good. They train hard. Yeah. I'm lucky that we have enough coaches to support them, and everyone. I think I don't know if it's unique at our school, but what I like is we have very different styles, right? I come from Ralph Gracie style. Tony comes from Carlson Gracie style. Alex has his own style. He brought leg locks to the gym, and now everyone's just loving it. So it kind of brings different styles together, and your style of jiu-jitsu is a function of all your training partners, right? Mainly the coach's style kind of is spread through the gym, but then every person you ever roll with, it's a little weird. So this is where I'm getting like Eric Paulson on you.
All right, let's hear it.
But like the spirit, it's not the metaphysical spirit, but like the knowledge part of every single person you roll with becomes part of your soul, right? Part of your knowledge database. You did something against me that worked, and I remember it, right? Like I was, you were mentioning earlier that you had Adam Redzovich here. Like the Redzovich brothers were, like outside of Carlson Gracie, they've probably done more for spreading jiu-jitsu in Chicago than anyone, right? Right. We have a big school up in, I think it's in Lincoln Square. And so we've known each other for, I don't know, 15 years or so. But we trained, it was a few years ago, and he started getting me with this like simple sweep that I never, I probably knew it at some point, but I forgot it. Right. And then, the next day I'm using it on people. Right. Now it's mine, right? Like every person you train with, you're gonna take something from. And if it works, it becomes permanently part of your game now. Right. And so your style is going to be different than mine, and mine's going to be different than yours because our training experience are different, right? Mm-hmm. Not only are our bodies different and our flexibility and strength, but the knowledge we have is it's very different because of who we're training with. And the more people you train with, the better you're going to get, really. Right? You don't want to be a trader and go train at everyone's gym because you still have a home base, but you need to get out there and
see other looks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get complacent, right? Yeah. It's comfortable going to the same place. Right. When you go to a new gym, then you start getting nervous, you're a little anxious. It challenges you, right?
Yeah, but it's fantastic. It's very good.
Absolutely.
For you. Very good. I enjoy going to other open mats, just to see, because at our gym, Paul knows my game really well. He knows exactly what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and, he's got that down. And other people in the gym, I kind of feel them out as well. We all do that. But going to other schools, you really kind of get to test what you've been training and, how that's going to apply to people who don't train, with you on a daily basis. And it's really nice to see, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing the right thing if this guy can't do that because this guy doesn't know anything about me. Right. So it kind of helps out, and I appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah. So do you host open mats then? Or?
We do. So we have all of our open mats are open to everybody. So we have Friday nights and Sunday mornings open mats.
Sunday mornings. Okay.
So people come. I don't spend a lot of time at open mats. I just have kids to chase, and my wife would kill me if I spent more time at the gym.
Right.
I convinced her for this Sunday night training session going up to the World, so we'll see how that goes.
When is the Worlds?
15th and 16th of December.
Yeah,
so right. You got just over a month.
You gonna go to that, Cito?
No. I mean, I'm not gonna compete in it. No.
No? Why not?
I don't know. I don't really think about it. Why? I mean,
don't know.
is there a master's division of that?
Yeah.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, he's going out there in Monaco. And
Yeah, I know they're going. When is it? December
15, 16.
15th, 16th?
Yeah.
And it's in California?
Anaheim. Yeah.
Oh, it's in Anaheim.
Just south of LA.
Yeah, I haven't thought, and it's Nogi. Yeah, I haven't thought of doing it. Is the registration closed?
No. You have to like December 7th, I think.
I should check out the division. Yeah,
In the Masters division, they're like 5-minute matches, so that's like a blink of an eye.
I don't like that. I like
They're
longer
short.
matches. I'm just because you know what I'm a collect data type of guy.
Yeah.
You know, I like to collect the data. I like to see what's going on and feel it out and okay, all right, now I'm going to do this. That's just how I roll. It's just I like the longer
You slow
matches.
play it.
I do. I slow play it. I'm not like Pierre. Just boom, he's in wrecking you and he's out.
throw something on real quick.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to play around a little bit.
How would you describe your game, Misha? Are you top player, guard guy?
So I used to be a guard guy, and then started being much more in the top. I'm a pressure guy. Like I like smashing.
I
like
noticed that a
smashing
lot of
pressure.
old school black belts are that.
I just love a
smashing.
ton of pressure.
Yeah. It's
so
fantastic.
Hickson has the invisible jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
and I joke that we have visible jiu-jitsu because if I can't see the pain in your face, I'm doing something wrong.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to figure out how to maximize pressure.
Yeah.
So I love a ton of pressure. I have I put on a lot of pressure.
Well, being 6'2", 220, I'm sure you can apply that pretty well.
I'm all right. Like,
Do you have the type of pressure where you get taps from side control and stuff like that?
like I don't overdo it.
Yeah.
I don't overdo it.
But you could.
I probably. But.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be modest.
Right. What's your favorite submission?
Oh man, what do I do? So I have something called the waterboard.
The waterboard?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I haven't shown anyone this. My students.
It's your
do it.
move.
It's sort of my move. Like no one ever taught it to me.
You definitely named it though, right?
I definitely named it.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a variation of a arm triangle, but instead of like jumping to the side, I have both of your arms trapped against your ears, and I have my sweaty gi like right in your face, so you're inhaling all that sweat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hence the waterboarding.
I gotcha.
It's a ton of pressure, and it just like you can't escape.
So you collect
Sounds
both.
awful.
So you're on like this?
Yeah, so I have a very tight squeeze, and your arms are wrapped here, and my chest is smashing your face.
I gotcha.
And then I did, I was
So they're
watching.
tapping with their legs.
Also known as the Saturday Night Ride.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
I did see Carlinhos do this in a tournament once when he was competing. This was like 15 or 20 years ago, but I was watching one of his old matches, and I saw him doing it. I was like, hey, you did the waterboard. So yeah, I can't take credit for it, but someone else has probably done it. But I love putting that pressure on. People panic.
Yeah. I know I would panic.
Yeah.
Because when you can't get out, like even when Maneko's like 160 something, and when he gets on, I'm like, it's it. I can't handle that pressure. He's just so heavy on your chest, and you're like, I can't get
a
out.
black belt 165 is probably like a normal person who weighs like 250 on top of you.
Exactly.
Like they're using every inch of their body to create pressure, right? They're on their toes. They're not, they're not laces down. They're driving off the mat. They're making, it's the weight times all the force that they're creating.
And that angle you got to create. If you're driving down at that 60 degree, it's not as much pressure if you just drop it down to that 45 degree and hit that angle, you know?
Yeah.
So much heavier, isn't it?
It's heavy, man. Yeah. It's certainly heavy.
You got to remember, like, you create more force the smaller the surface area is, right? So 150 pounds on like a square inch versus 150 pounds spread out over a square foot, it's going to create completely different force and loads. So if you can figure out how to pinpoint all your weight into one spot, like the point of your shoulder, the point of your hip, the center of your chest, it's going to feel like a ton more pressure than if you're spreading all your weight across your entire body on somebody. Right. So it's, if somebody with a heel steps on your foot, and that's going to hurt a lot more than someone who steps on your foot with a shoe.
Right.
Because all that weight's concentrated in that fine point.
Right.
I forgot my physics, but it's force equals mass over area. So somehow
that
it's
sounds about right.
inversely proportional.
Yeah, we don't have to.
I think you're correct there.
Sounded good.
Yeah.
Well, it's 6:20. I know you got to head back downtown.
I have training at 7:00.
Yeah, you do. So we should wrap this up. Where can people find you?
anybody's welcome. We're in Lincoln Park, 1528 North Halsted. So ChicagoMMA.com is the website. Hit me up. You want to come by and have a roll? We have a lot of guys. Everybody's welcome to open mats on Fridays and Sundays. And the more we train together, the stronger the community grows. And Chicago Jiu-Jitsu's come a long way, right? From Carlson Gracie having one school to there's probably 10 or 12, 15 schools now that are legitimate in Chicago and the area. And each one has its own ecosystem, different techniques and styles. And the more you cross train, and the better the jiu-jitsu gets.
Yeah, fantastic.
For sure. So everybody's welcome.
Do you have your own personal social media or anything like that?
I'm trying to get off social
He's
media.
awful.
Yeah.
He's awful with it. Don't even.
I deleted Facebook. I just
I was trying to book him, and he responded on Messenger and said, "Can we do this via email? I don't use Messenger." I'm like, via email? That's not easier.
Hey, old school, man.
But I like it.
Old school is
I'm
email
getting rid
now.
of Twitter. I have Twitter. I don't use it.
Yeah.
Facebook I'm trying to get rid of. It's only open because I have a Facebook.
The team
gym.
page.
The
and
team
stuff.
page.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a time. So
I hear
gotta
you.
be
We're
there.
kind of in the same boat too.
Yeah,
Just-
yeah. I see a need for it, but there's no need for it.
Yeah.
My selfie days are over.
Right.
Me too. I agree. Although I did take a selfie today. I went rock climbing with the Roll Academy. Thomas invited me to do a rock climbing. So Tom was like, "Hey, can we take a selfie?" I'm like, "Okay, let's take a
All
selfie
right,
together." Not with my phone, with his phone.
Okay.
So
That doesn't count then.
yeah, it doesn't count.
That's not
Misho,
a selfie.
it's
yeah.
been a pleasure, man.
Guys, thanks.
for
It
coming
was
out.
great to meet you.
And,
Great
hopefully
show.
come out there and check out your open mat.
You're always welcome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Biotropic Labs. Biotropic Labs is a company that makes its own natural and healthy custom formulated sports supplements. I tried them out. Paul has also tried them. We both like how we feel on them. It dramatically and positively improved our performance, allowing us to train and work out at a much higher level and with much more endurance. His products are built around a blood support and oxygen delivery. To learn more about their products, please visit them on the web at biotropiclabs.com. At checkout, use the promo code UNION10 to receive 10% off your order. Your order is also backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, zero-risk purchase. Again, that's biotropiclabs.com. Use the promo code UNION10 at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order.
This episode of the Grappler Union Podcast is brought to you by BJJTees. Go to bjjtees.com, enter the promo code Grappler Union, and save 10% off all your jiu-jitsu apparel. Go to bjjtees.com today.
This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Strychnine Jiu-Jitsu, makers of vintage-inspired tees, hoodies, and rash guards. Go to strychnine.co, that's STRYCH9.co, and use the promo code UNION at checkout to receive 20% off your online order.